Hi, and welcome to the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Today I've kind of got a mixed bag of what we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk a little bit about some slight changes to the channel for this really warm weather we're having. So join us and we'll get started with that. And welcome back to the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Well, hi and welcome back. Today I've got a couple of different things that I want to talk to you about, and one of those we're going to start off with right away, and that's our tools. You might have seen right before we went to our little break that I was having some problems cutting these strips of fabric, and I'm using these for our EPP project, and I'll show you that in just a second. But this little cutter that I have, this is a Fisker's cutter that I got at Christmas time, so I probably didn't start using it until sometime in January. And now here we are in the beginning weeks of July, and it is beginning to show some evidence of having some nicks or some dull spots in it, because when I go to cut, I get some places where I have to go back and make a second pass. And because of that too, I also find that sometimes my ruler moves slightly, and I think that's because I'm having to press too hard to get the job done. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch this out, but before we do that, I'll tell you, I just took the cover off this, and it does have a lot of lint in here. I think maybe you could see that, all that lint in there. So we're going to take that out first, because that is probably slowing this blade down a bit and giving it some drag. And I'll tell you, I've never taken this one apart before, so bear with me. Now we're going to use these Rotary cutter blades that I bought off Amazon, and I'll put the link for those down below. It says they're Rotary cutter blades, Japanese steel. There were 10 in this box, and they are the 28mm. Satisfaction guaranteed. So they're made by Headley Tools, H-E-A-D-L-E-Y. They are made in China. So, and they come in this little tiny package, and that is a tiny one. I don't want to break my nail, so let me see what I've got in here that I might. Oh, I see exactly what I need. And I bet you have one of these in your sewing machine too, a little screwdriver. Now this one isn't specifically for sewing machines, but it'll work. And we can bring that tab up without breaking a nail. Okay, so there we are. We've got our blades in here. Let me put this here so you can see it. And there's a bunch of them in there. Now the trick is going to be, how are we going to get just one out? And I'm sure somebody has some, oh, look at there. Somebody has some ideas, but this is working pretty well. I'm sliding these out like you would slide out cards. And then I'm going to take the 9 we don't need. Now that's a problem. I'll be right back. So what happened was I tried to pick them up as the bundle, the ones we weren't using, without touching them, because they are coated with oil and they're very sharp on the edges. So you have to be careful about how you pick them up. And I dropped them on the floor. And I know some people sew barefoot. And I typically don't do that, but there might be some occasions where you would, especially as warm as it is this time of year. And I'm going to talk about that a little later. But if that were to happen, please be very careful that you don't do that, because as a whole, these would probably cut you. But because there's so many blades, it's likely they wouldn't cut you really deep. But when you have one blade, then it can probably go in much deeper. So just be very careful. So I've got these, here are the 9 here. So the question is, how are we going to get them back in here? I'm going to use a little scrap of fabric. It's kind of like my mitt. And from there, I'm going to drop them back into this case. And then I can use a little tool just to get them over the little partition in the middle. And we're going to close this up. And then you snap it closed. So that at least will keep them safe. Now, we've got a blade on here that's old and a blade that's new. So it's going to be pretty easy to dump out that one that's old and put in the one that's new. And I'm going to slide it over so I can just touch the center of the underside. Okay, it's on there now. And we can safely pick that up here and then by the knob underneath. And we're going to put this in like that. And then we're going to put the nut on the other side. Okay, and I'm going to tighten it up really tight to begin with while I deal with this. Now, what am I going to do with this? Ooh, we're going to have to find out a solution for that. Now, I can say this, it's small enough that it would go in a prescription bottle. So maybe that's what I'll do is I'll go find one of those. Okay, so we're going to put that away. And I'm going to take this one, this used one for now, and wrap it up and put it over to the side. And I will deal with that one safely once we're off the air. But keep in mind the problems that I had there, easily remedied and easy to be safe with them. Just be mindful of what you're doing. And that's the package for them again. Okay, we've got it back in. We've cleaned it up. And let's see how this blade works. Now, I tightened it up really tight, so we're going to have to adjust that. And I'll tell you this, that my ruler, I've begun to notice that it is getting really worn. And I don't think it's going to be long before I have to replace this one. Okay, so let's loosen this up. We'll put the safety back on. I'll loosen it up. Not quite rolling freely. Okay, there we go. All right, let's give it a shot, see how this new blade works. And it worked really good. It did feel a little bit differently, and I think that may be because it's still a little too tight. But so far, so good in that first cut, and the safety still works around it. So there we go. Now, while we have this out, let me tell you what I'm doing with it. I'm cutting strips to make more EPP pieces. That's this diamond shape that we're using for our EPP project. And here's what I have so far. Make sure you don't have any oil from those blades on your fingers. Here's what we have. So we're coming right along with this, and I really am enjoying very much the creative side of choosing what design is going in this next. But we are to a point where I need lots of, well, I have one spot where I need some of the little solid light green, and that's what I made last night. I've found that if I cut 2 strips and go ahead and cut them into the individual pieces that I need, that I can typically clip them and sew them for those 2 strips during a movie. So I can turn out, what, probably 30 really easily in the time it takes to watch a movie. And that's watching it and doing it, not necessarily just focusing only on that. So if you were to spend your time just doing the pieces, imagine how many you could do. And then once I get those strips cut, let me just show you really quickly. I'm kind of doing this freehand. I'm not worrying about it a bunch, but I'll come in here and give us that about quarter inch border all around it, and then I'll use that as the pattern for a few, because they all, when you do this, they tend to get a little bit bigger every single time. So I cut about 3, and then I toss these 2 to the side and use that original one back again and cut some more. And then that way they stay pretty much the same size. And remember, they don't have to be exact because you're folding them under. As long as you've got enough there for a seam allowance, it'll work just fine for you. So that's what's going on with our EPP project. And a little bit about the new blades for our cutter. Okay, and we've still got lots of pieces in here. White ones, green ones, pink ones, then the dark green ones, a little bit of everything. And it is coming along really nicely. It is getting a little bit bigger now, and it is a little harder to manage it. I've only taken out, I think, 2 rows of papers, and I'm kind of leaving them in there. I've still got enough I can work with, and I'll just take them out as I need new papers. Okay, the other thing that I found this week was a solution to a problem that I was having. And the problem that I had was the way I hang my rulers up on the wall. I love them to be right here, so they're easy to grab a hold of whenever I need it, whether I'm filming or I'm sewing or I'm just being creative here. Whatever I need, they're really nicely, quickly at hand, and I can take and put back as I need to. The problem that I was running into is nails are just effective, but they tend to, if you just put a nail in, it wants to slide up and down. So you may go to hang your ruler up and push the nail in. Or if you're trying to hang a couple of them on the same nail, it's a juggling act, and you also run into that same problem where if you push the nail in, then you can only hang 2 instead of 3, or whatever your situation is. So I finally, after a lot of looking around at Home Depot, and I went through the hardware section, and I didn't see anything. And I came back and looked through again. I looked at things like the command hooks with the little white plastic that goes onto your surface, and then the silver hook. I've had those in other areas of my houses, and they work great for holding them. What they don't work great for is taking it off, because when you try to take it off, it wants to fold up on you. And trying to get it off and get it back on, that thing is dancing around, and it's not very effective. What I really needed was a nail that I could put into the wall, and then it had an extension so that even when it was in the wall, it still stuck out enough. And it needed to be small enough that it could fit through this hole. Let's see if I put a little something, I don't know if you can see that hole or not. It's about 3/8 of an inch in diameter. And the rulers are probably 16 inches or a little bit more. And I frequently have 2 or 3 on each hook. So they needed to stick out long enough that they would be effective. Third pass through the hardware section at Home Depot, I finally found something, and it was at the very bottom of the display. And it is called a one-step hanger. There are 3 in a package. Each one holds 60 pounds. So it's certainly going to hold what we've got on here. And it's made by a company, OOK, O-O-K. And their website is www.ooks.com. 3 of them in here. Let me take these out because I do want to put another one up on the wall after we get finished. And here's what they look like. These are brass color. I don't know if they're really brass or not. I don't see that it says. But they're a nail without really a head on them. They're just kind of just a flat subject here. It doesn't have a point at the part that's going to stay out, so that's good. It's safe. But it's got the shield around it at a bit of an angle so that when you nail it into the wall, that little part of it is going to stay exposed at a slight angle. And that's going to make it really easy to hang your ruler or your template on that hook. You can do several, and it's going to hold it. Now let me show you what it looks like on the wall. Here's one right here. It looks unobtrusive. It's not huge. It's not some big command hook that's up there. And for the most part, command hooks are not going to work well because the hook part of it's going to be too big to get in here. But this is just great because it's easy to just slip it right on there and it stays. This one has 3 rulers on it. This one has 3 square templates, rulers on it, and they're easy to take off. All you gotta do is be able to grab a hold of it. You can take it off, put it right back on. They're very secure. They don't protrude enough that it's going to be much of a problem. I would say at most they're 1/2 inch. So even if you were to fall against it, it may poke you, bruise you. It could break the skin, I suppose, if you fell against it hard. But if you fall against anything hard, that's going to happen. So I think they're a fairly safe solution for this problem. Now, if I had little kids running around in here, that might not be the solution I take. But for me, this is going to work great. And probably the only person that would ever get hurt is me. So I'm very much willing to use these over what I had. What I was using was a really large straight pin with a big pearl head on it. They're hard to get nailed in the wall because they want to bend. And if you put too much weight on them, they're going to bend. And if they bend and they start rolling around in the wall, meaning every time you put something on it, instead of bending up, it's now bending down, things are going to fall off. And that was the problem I had. I had a little problem the other day where this got bumped against and it fell and it dropped that one and down to here and everything came off the wall. And then the ones that I was using were bent so badly they couldn't be used again. So I had to find another solution. I'm very happy with this. This was like $2.50 per package, and there's 3 in each package. Very economical solution, especially if you want your rulers on the wall. Okay, now for the final thing today, I want to talk about the weather. Yeah, I would call it the weather. Let me tell you, I don't know where you are, but it is really hot. And even in here, it's noonish, 1 o'clock. And theoretically, it should be fairly cool in here. But let me tell you, it's almost 100 degrees outside. And it is difficult to get in here and have the appropriate amount of light and equipment running to film this to get you a video that you would want to see, the quality of the lighting, the sound. And it has really just gotten to a point where it is very, very warm. So we're going to make a little bit of adjustment while we're in the heat of the summer. Even right now, I'm very warm sitting here. What we're going to do is we have one more episode of our Barn Star sampler project, and that will show on Friday. And then after Friday, we're going to go to a little different format for a couple of weeks. And that's going to be something kind of like today, where we talk about various subjects in a short video. You're probably going to see some actual hand sewing on that, if I can get the camera arranged so that you can see that appropriately. And we're just going to have it more of a come and chat and sew for a few minutes. video. That will allow a couple of things. It will be a shorter video. It can be done at different times of the day. So if it's hotter in the morning versus the afternoon or vice versa, we can adjust to that. Second of all, I've got a lot of projects started. I've got a lot of hand sewing to do, and it's almost time to start a new project. So I need a little bit of a break to accommodate that and get us started on something new. So we're going to move that to the Friday slot, and we're going to call that Finish It Friday. And we're going to work on things that need to be packaged or buttoned up. That would include hand sewing, hand quilting, talking about things that are going on, challenges, tips and tricks, things like that. And we're going to condense that into, like I said, a fairly short little video on Friday. And it could be just sewing and chatting, or it could be something else. It will not be a new project right now. And then for Wednesdays, which seems to be our most popular time slot right now, we're going to continue with the kind of projects we have been working on. We're going to continue with our EPP project and our block of the month that we've been working on, and then perhaps we can get back to a little bit more on our Design the Quilt with the Big Sunflower. So a lot going on, and I just need to rearrange this so we can continue to make videos that I enjoy and you like to see. I hope that you will stick with us while we make this short change, and then that will allow me to prepare also going into the fall with a new project. And I've got some thoughts about maybe doing a Christmas project that we could work on as well. A lot of ideas going on right now, and I'm just trying to fit it all in on one side of my brain so that we can put it out in videos to you. And right now, I'm dying. It is so hot. I don't remember it being so hot, but I think it's because of me doing different things and doing more videos. And sometimes it gets later in the day and it gets warmer and warmer and warmer. So we're just going to swap things up. We're not going anywhere. We're still planning on having 2 videos a week. You're just going to see a little difference in what we do. And we're going to take a couple of weeks before we start a new project, so we have an opportunity to get some work done on the things we're already working on. If you have any questions, any suggestions, any hints or tips that you would like to share, I would really like to be able to hear those and share it with our audience. So leave me a comment below, or if it's something more detailed, you might want to send me an email. You can find my email address in the description for the channel. I appreciate you coming and watching me sweat and going through all this. I hope there was something here today that was helpful to you, whether it was the new blades or the hooks for the walls. Sometimes they're the simplest things that we run across in our day-to-day work and hobbies that make the biggest difference. And I hope that one of these was helpful to you. If you would, please give me a thumbs up, like this video, subscribe if you have not already, and share us with a friend. We always like to see new people popping by to see the videos. And we'll see you next week at the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Bye, and stay cool.